Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Neglected or Delinquent Data webinar. A couple housekeeping items before we get started. Information on joining the teleconference can be found in the Info tab in the upper left of the screen. Be sure to use the attendee ID number on the Info tab when dialing in to associate your name with your phone. Hopefully everybody was able to do that. In order to cut down on background noise, we've placed everyone on mute upon entry into the meeting. And during the question and answer portion of this presentation, you can type your questions into the Q&A panel, not the chat panel, and that's located below the participant list, and then you just want to select send. Finally, a copy of this presentation and a link to the recording will be shared on the EDFacts Grads community site, and it will also be in a future edition of the weekly support update. So to get us started, today we have Liz Finney with us. She's a Program and Management Analyst with the Department of Education, and specifically the National Center for Education Statistics. We also have Jake Sokolsky, who is a researcher with AIR, and will talk to us in a little bit about the data quality efforts with the NRD data. And I'm Doreen Fay. I'm with the EDFacts Partner Support Center. So the goal for this webinar is to prepare for the submission of the EDFacts NRD or neglected or delinquent data, and to really support the states in submitting as high quality of data as possible. So hopefully what we cover today will help produce better data. So the agenda, we will go over the NRD EDFacts files. We'll go over the submission timeline. I'll hand it over to Jake, and he's going to talk about some data quality issues that have been found. We'll talk about the business rule single inventory. We'll talk about changes in the NRD file specs from last year to this year. And then finally, we'll finish with available resources, support, and then if we have any questions, we can, as I mentioned, put them into the question and answer panel, and then we'll address those at the end. So to start out, we have 6 N or D EDFacts files, and those are listed here. You have file spec 113, which is NRD Academic Achievement State Agency, 119, which is NRD Participation State Agency, 125 is NRD Academic Achievement LEA, 127 is NRD Participation LEA, 180 is NRD in Programs Outcomes, and 181 is NRD Exited Programs Outcomes. Okay. So the timeline for submitting your data, February 13th, 2019 is going to be the last day to submit these files. That is a Wednesday, and you have up until 11:59 and 59 seconds on that day. And then once that data are submitted, it'll go through that data quality review. So that's scheduled for mid-April through mid-May. And as you see here, Ed will check the data and prepare the comments. And then mid-May 2019 is when states will be able to correct and recertify the data. We will be officially announcing resubmission dates once they have been determined. Okay. So I am going to hand it over to Jake, who will talk for the next couple slides about the data quality effort. Jake?
Yes, thanks. Good afternoon, everyone. Over the next few slides, I'm going to highlight some information that we gathered during the 2018 verification process. As you can see here, at the initial submission, we saw no change in the amount of states that had data quality flags across all severity levels. There were 51 states, which was roughly 98%, that had some sort of issue ranging from low to high level, compared to that same number, 51 states from the year before. Now, where we did see an improvement was in the high-level data issues. There was a drop from 7 states in the February 2017 initial submission to only 4 states having the highest classification of data issue, which we were very pleased and was fantastic to see. We can go ahead and go to the next slide. Now, this slide dives into some of the more common data quality issues that we found during the initial submission. One of the most prevalent issues that arose was inconsistencies in programs being funded by Title I Part D dollars and the programs being reported. Every program that is funded by TIPD dollars should report data. Now, we saw this issue arise in 10 states. 4 states were missing data for entire program types, so no data at all for juvenile corrections programs, even though they indicated that there were juvenile corrections programs, just for example. Now, for academic and vocational outcomes, the outcome achieved is compared to the unduplicated count of students, and in 6 states, we saw that they had more students achieving particular outcomes than the unduplicated count itself, which is an immediate flag for us. And similarly, in academic performance data, here the outcome is compared to the long-term student count. And in 5 states, we saw that they had academic achievement data that was greater than the long-term student count, which once again was a red flag for us as well. You can go ahead to the next slide, please. Now, in the following slide, here we highlight many of the data quality checks that we perform when we receive states data during the initial submission. We check for any issue that would cause a state to be excluded from GEPRA. For example, if when rolling every program up, the number of students who earned high school course credits is greater than 100% of the total unduplicated count for that program type, this would lead to a GEPRA exclusion. If there are major pieces or full sections of missing data, as highlighted before, programs reporting and programs funded, any discrepancies in there, all zeros being reported for academic performance, and any missing or mixed up data in demographics. That's just to name a few of the issues that we look out for. Next slide.
Okay, thanks, Jake. If you didn't have anything else, I can go ahead and start talking about this slide.
Sure thing, thank you.
Great, thank you. So one thing that we have that's new as of 2018 is the EDFacts Business Rules Single Inventory. What this is a single inventory that contains data quality business rules that is applied to the data throughout the entire life cycle of that data. It includes previously published submission rules as well as post-submission data quality rules. And the goal of this is really to increase that transparency in the post-submission data quality review. The BRSI, as we like to call it, it includes 2 documents. The first one is a Word document that details the terminology used in the spreadsheet. And then the other one is the Excel spreadsheet describing each of the business rules. So both of these documents are available on the EDFacts Initiative site. So I highly recommend going to the site, looking up both of these documents, both the Word and the Excel, familiarize yourself with it. If you have any questions, please contact Partner Support Center and we can answer those questions for you. The other thing I do want to talk about real quick is the absence of CSPR in this presentation. If you've attended the NRD webinar in the past, a lot of what we talked about was the data and how it's entered in the CSPR. With the CSPR not happening this year, we aren't referencing, obviously, the data in the CSPR. So in the future, we will have more information about that, but therefore, there will be no recertification of CSPR since that's not happening this year, but just resubmission of the files. So the next 2 slides are going to cover all of the changes in the NRD file specs from last year to this year. There's going to be a lot of similarities as you look through these. First off, for all of the file specs, we deleted the section 5.0 on the XML specifications since it's no longer used for submitting file specs. I'm not going to read through every single one of these. As I mentioned, there's some overlap. For example, for category academic subject assessment no science, the changed population from A to M and also removed missing as an allowed permitted value. That's the same for file spec 125. Something else that you'll see is the revised definition to the types of program under ESEA as amended, Title I, Part D, Subpart 1. That's going to be in a lot of these changes. And if we go to the next slide, these are the last three of the energy files. And again, that just goes over any of the changes from last year to this year. So in each file spec, and I'll touch on this in just a second, all of this information is included in every single file spec. There's a section specifically for changes. Okay. So about EDFacts resources, there is resources available on the NRD website. There's this link available here. We have a tip sheet. And the data quality material is on hold. And Jake, can you confirm that for me, please? If you're available.
Yep, sorry, I was unmuting.
Yes,
okay. That is correct.
Okay, so data quality material is on hold. Be on the lookout for that in the future. As far as resources on the EDFacts initiative site, once again, we have all of the file specs available on the initiative site. They are located under the EDFacts system documentation section. And the next slide, I think, gets into a little bit more information on that. And then one of the last resources we have is the EDFacts community site. This site is our communities of practice site. And along with having a calendar with due dates to include all of these NRD deadlines, we also have the data submission organizer, and I'll touch on that in a little bit more detail in just a second. Okay. So locating and using your file specifications. Once again, all of the file specs are located on the EDFacts initiative website under the EDFacts system documentation. You want to link to the school year 17-18 file specs. Now this is a picture of the front of the file spec. They all look very similar. And they all contain these sections. They contain the purpose, they contain the guidance for submitting this file, and underneath that you have changes from the 16-17 file specs, which if you were paying attention to what I just said, it's going to look very familiar because I pulled all of those changes directly from the file specs and included in the presentation. So everything is available there and along with this presentation, but also in the file spec. In the file spec, you'll also see core requirements for submitting the file, required categories and totals, guidance, and definitions. And then the two last sections are the file naming convention and the fixed or delimited files. Okay, so once again, those are all located on the EDFacts initiative website, and that link is located here as well. So I touched on the data submission organizer. This is a tool that's located in the EDFacts community site. This is a screenshot of what the tool looks like. You can come in and you can search using any of these columns. So in this example, I typed in N or D under the file name. So then all of my 6 NRD file specs were returned. Under the due date, you can select the due date. You can select the school year. You can select the actual file number. What this will do is provide you a unique link, a direct link to that file spec using that second to last column. It's going to also show you your different data groups. And this is also available to download to Excel if you needed to do that for easier viewing or to email to somebody. So once again, we're with the EDFacts Partner Support Center. We're open from 8 to 6, Monday through Friday, excluding federal holidays, and this is our contact information. So if you have any questions about the presentation or your NRD files or any of the resources that we've provided, please feel free to give us a call, and we will be happy to help you. And then that basically concludes our presentation. We're going to open it up now to questions that anybody may have. Once again, type your question into the Q&A panel and not the chat panel. We'll read them aloud, and if we're able to answer, then we will. If not, we will follow up with the department and provide a a formal answer. So if anybody has questions, please feel free to ask. Okay, we do have a question. Where would we get GEPRA counts from? Jake, do you know that answer? And you might be on mute, Jake, if you're talking.
What was it called? Where do we get GEPRA counts from?
Yes.
Do they mean their own? I'm not sure. Can they kind of clarify a little more what they mean? Yeah.
Okay, while we're waiting on that, we did have a request to go back to the 1718, the changes in the file specs. So I am just going to go back there real quick. One note for the file specs, in the actual documentation, the file spec documentation, there's going to be a red revised notification basically wherever there's a change, so it does stand out to you. Okay, I went ahead and changed to the next slide for changes in the file specs. And we don't have any more questions at this time. However, if you think of a question after this presentation, please feel free to contact us at Partner Support Center. We will get back to you as soon as possible. And if there are no more questions, we'll go ahead and conclude the webinar. I do want to thank Jake Sokolsky for being on today from AIR. Thank you, Jake. And once again, thank you everybody for joining, and please contact PSC if you have any questions. Oh, thank you. Just was reminded there is a survey at the end of this webinar. Once you exit out, a survey will pop up. If you could please fill that out, it's just going to help us in our presentations for the future. So we appreciate that as well. All right, thanks everybody. Have a great day.